Ford has their 6.7 turbo diesel engines completely made in Mexico. If the United States does their tariff thing, Ford is talking about how they just can't afford to stay in business if that happens. Ford's freaking out. You know, they're trying to make plans of moving shit around. The latest Trump plan on these tariffs is that if a product is 75% made outside of the United States, you're going to get taxed on it, a tariff. Nothing's happened yet. And again, I really don't think anything's going to happen. You just have the talks of it. But Ford, the Ford Motor Company, like Ford cars, Ford trucks, they don't even know the Federal Reserve's plan. I've said this Federal Reserve's plan. I know their plan because they say it. And it's not hidden. It's not a secret. You can go to the federalreserve.gov, look at their speeches, and you can see their plan. It's right there. Why can I see it, but then they can't? So you got these super billionaire people up there at the head of Ford Motor Company, and they're tweaking out. You know, they just hear Trump talk about tariffs, and they're like, shit, dude, our engines are made in Mexico. So if we get a tariff, we won't be able to sell trucks because we got to pass that price on to the consumer. This is just off a little bit. And then if they pass it on to the consumer, they're already struggling, right? They make shit trucks. They make shit cars. Everyone knows. I like in the last couple weeks, I literally bought a Ford truck that was actually had a bad engine in it. That's beside the point. But like, they're tweaking. Nothing's happened yet. This is the gold machine, like at work. The story of the gold machine. The story of the gold machine is, you know, this is Ben Bernanke. This is, I really don't remember. I fucking read it. It is true, but I don't remember who said it exactly. But like, you have the Federal Open Market Committee made up of 12 members, and they dictate monetary policy. There's substitutes and alternates and stuff, but it's these 12 people, you know, some women, so I can't say guys, but there's 12 people. They regulate monetary policy. They make speeches that they talk amongst themselves, and these are all published. Like, their speeches are out there. They're even on YouTube. I don't recommend listening to them because they're extremely dense, right? So they have a way of talking so that if you listen to them and you're so used to listening to normal people, you're gonna have a really hard time understanding them. So if you're gonna read it, and I doubt anybody does, I'm a weirdo. I like this stuff, but like, if you're, you know, getting into it, I recommend reading it, and you're gonna have to take time. Sit yourself in a room. Don't listen to background music. Shut up your cat. Like, tell your wife to relax, or tell your husband, you know, not to bother you. Get your kids somewhere. Like, you have to sit down and read, and you have to like highlight. It's a whole freaking thing. The Federal Reserve has their plan. You know, we got the gold machine story. If a guy, an alchemist, he makes a machine that makes gold, pure gold, legit, and it takes very little energy, it takes very little cost. You're gonna get, say he makes that machine, you get like people who are credible. You get a politician, you get a journalist, you get scientists, you get these people to look at this machine. They look at the machine and they're like, you know what, this works, this is legit. No, it takes very little energy and the cost is very little. Once they publish the story, you got the politicians making speeches, you got the reporters, they're writing articles, you got the scientists verifying it on scientific magazines or whatever. Once that word gets out, the gold machine doesn't even need to be plugged in. The price of gold plummets just by the word, right? So if you get just the rumor will affect the economy immediately. You don't have to wait for interest rates to come down, and then, you know, the rich people always get the lower interest rate first, right? So once the Fed funds rate comes down, then the bank will lower their interest rate. And then, for example, the next step down will be like mortgage rates, right? Then the mortgage rate comes down. Then you got the normal people deciding that now that the interest rate's down, I'm going to look for a house. That takes time. Like, you know, the Federal Reserve has said that like it takes, they call it like a lag period by the time the interest rates will actually affect the economy. That probably is going to take a year before like you get any stimulative effect. And I know there are times in like recent history, in the last like, I don't know, 10, 15 years, there are times where like the interest rate lowers, like during COVID, right? People thought that because the interest rate was down, everything feels better immediately. That's not the case. That's never been the case. Like by the numbers and by the stats, it takes about a year, maybe 6 months. That takes way too fucking long. So what they do with the rumor, somebody's walking here. What they do with the rumor is that everybody immediately reacts. You know, you got me immediately, not me, I know better. But you got normal people immediately reacting. You got the companies immediately reacting. These giant corporations, small business, like everybody is immediately jumping the gun. And they're trying to make changes according to what they hear alone. So Jerome Powell going on CNN, talking about we're going to lower interest rates. Everybody's jumping. Everybody's like, this is great. Let me buy, like, for example, you could buy a house and then hope that when the interest rates drop, you can refinance. Ford is tweaking out. Ford engines are made in Mexico. They're already talking about making changes. Nothing's happened yet. This is the monetary policy at work. You know, when you have tariffs, that's gonna, it's a tax, right? Made outside of the country. That means in order to bring it in, it's gonna cost money to bring it in. So a tariff is really like a tariff isn't just a tax on the product, it's actually a tax on letting it in. So like if Ford wants to make their engines in Mexico, which they do right now, Ford sucks, dude. Do not buy Ford for any foreseeable time. Like if you really want a truck, dude, just, I know like Toyota's had their problems with their recent trucks, but like what Toyota does really well is like they'll let something just like, they'll try to fix their problems with the same engine. For example, like I know their twin turbo or bi-turbo, I think they're twin turbo V6s on their Tundras. You know, those have had bearing issues, and they found out that it was actually like in the manufacturing. So they have these issues with their, I'm going off again, but this is other stuff I'm interested in. Toyota found out that their engines, while they're being machined, they weren't cleaned properly. And so you actually had metal shavings in their engines. Engines have very, very, very low tolerances. So you can't have anything in those engines. They have to run perfectly. Well, you get a lot of people that are like bringing their trucks back in, like, dude, this thing just blew up. What's going on? So what Toyota does really well and what they're known for, I mean, Japanese in general, what they're known for is like, they find the issue and they just fix it. So instead of like, fuck it, we'll scrap it, make a new engine, that engine's it's always gonna have problems. Like with anything brand new, especially when you produce it on mass scale, you're not gonna see these problems until you produce it on mass scale. So sure, you might get an engine and it works on a test track and shit. You might test out 10 engines, but it's when you get thousands out there that you really find problems. So, you know, Toyota's fixing their stuff, and now they just don't have as many issues, and they'll keep that same engine. They'll keep working on it until they get it right. But that's beside the point. So Ford engines being made in Mexico, they're going to come in, they're going to be taxed. Ford does not want this. They're already trying to make changes. These changes are coming in way too quick because no tariff has actually happened. Now, there might be a benefit to this, right? So if they're going to make it in America, the first problem, this isn't even a benefit. The first problem is that it's way too expensive here. The labor costs way too much, and that's why it's done in Mexico. It's too expensive to make stuff here. And everybody can complain and be like, well, if it's American made, I'll pay a little more. It's not going to be a little more, dude. We make way more money than a guy in Mexico trying to make the engine. The guy in Mexico doesn't have giant mortgages like we do. They do not have to they don't have to pay for nearly as much stuff because their standard of living is lower. It's not because they don't want nice things. It's because the way that they live on average costs way less than we do here. The guy working in Mexico probably doesn't have 2 cars, one for him and his wife. He probably doesn't have 4 cell phones for all of his kids. He doesn't need to go out to eat at a nice restaurant twice a month. Right? He doesn't have date nights with his wife. They live very low lives. Low, I don't want to say low. That's not correct. But they spend way less money on a normal salary. We spend a ton of money. Everybody's lifestyle here is way more than it is in Mexico, than it is in China. China's kind of on the come up, and they're having their issues with the Cantillon's effect, right? They've been the superpower producing for the last 40, 50 years. They're starting to have these problems. It's getting way too expensive to live in China. They're having the same problems that we are now. They're just at an earlier stage. It's not quite the same, but the idea is the same. So now they're buying houses, they're buying cars, they're buying nice shit. Because when you get money, that's always what you're gonna do. That's always the case. In Cantillon's, what is it called? Cantillon's Essay in Economic Theory, he specifies a gold mine. He uses a closed ecosystem of a closed economy, right? This is his story. He actually came to America, was examining how an economic system works, and he was able to see the life cycle. So he used the example of a silver mine. You have somebody who starts a silver mine. He finds silver, he mines it, he makes a lot of money. So then he needs to, produce more. So then he hires people, and those people start making a good amount of money. Everybody in that system who's making a lot of money spends a lot of money. They always do. And I know, times are tough now, so maybe if you got money, you'll save it. That doesn't happen on a mass scale. It's always, in terms of a system, on a scale that really affects anything, people always spend money. They'll spend more money. And then once banks come in, then everybody's fucked. But, the people that work at the silver mine, they're making money. They got silver, they're spending it. Now, they're buying this is in the 1700s, I believe, or 1600s. They're buying stuff. They're buying horses, they're buying clothes, they're buying food. And it is America, so a lot of people are homesteading. They're probably buying livestock. They're buying stuff for their homes. They're buying tools. Everywhere that they spend money, now the people who make the things that they buy, so the guy who is breeding horses, that guy is also making more money. And it's just going to go down the line. Now everybody's making more money, everybody's spending more money, right? So even the guy who makes horse feed and is selling it to the horse breeder, and that horse breeder is selling it to the guys who work at the silver mine, the whole line, everybody's spending more money because they're making more money. Money just burns a hole in people's pockets, and people immediately want to raise their standard of living. Because, of course, why wouldn't you? If you're making more money, you deserve it. You're working hard. You want to go home and spend more money, of course. So when that happens, everybody's standard of living goes up. That means they need more money to come in order to fulfill this lifestyle that they've just gotten used to. Once their lifestyle is so high that they can't get enough money into their own system to keep up that lifestyle, what happens every time is they will start getting products from somewhere that is cheaper. So you got the silver mine, say it happens in South Carolina. Maybe in Virginia, they have a lower standard of living. So now it'll be more fiscally responsible. It'll just be cheaper to pay for the travel get horses, for example, from West Virginia or from Virginia, wherever, to then bring it here, because it's cheaper to do that than it is to buy horses from that horse breeder who is now like buying more clothes. He's got a bigger house, you know, like his standard of living is too high, so it's actually too expensive to buy horses from that guy because he's spending more money, and therefore the prices of the horses that he breeds reflects his lifestyle. And so that's happening here, right? So the prices of everything inside America are too high. The price of labor is too high. And so anything that is made in America is just too expensive, right? That's why we make these high, like in terms of production, America makes like aviation parts wicked expensive. Who's buying aviation parts? Not you, not me. Maybe you if you're some rich guy. But like most of us aren't buying aviation parts. So the price of that could be high. That's fine. We make, I know in Connecticut, we make nuclear submarines. Like the price of labor can be high because submarines are wicked fucking expensive. And so you have this situation where the labor is too expensive. It costs too much to make something in America. You want to bring manufacturing back? It's not going to happen. If you want it to happen, let's say perfect world, right? You want to bring manufacturing back to America? Everybody. My wife is texting me. Oh, well, it's fine. Everybody has to lower their standard of living by a lot. So if you have a regular sized house, you have to have a smaller house. You have to get rid of your second car that your wife drives. You have to just settle on one phone. Settle on no phone. You can't spend, like, if you want the price of labor to go down, which you have to do in order to make things affordable to be made in America, you have everybody, not like some people, not have a 1% rich. Everybody needs their standard of living to go way down. Our standard of living is super high. I understand that for some of us, it feels really tough to live. That's because your expectations on how much money you need to spend are way too high. It's way up there. We need to live in squalor for a very long time in order to make manufacturing come back into America. Not gonna happen. No shot. No way. I mean, if every single person agreed that's the only way it's gonna be possible, it's gotta happen for a very long time. It can't happen for like a couple months. Not gonna happen for a year. It's gotta generations, probably 100, maybe 200 years, until we get our living standard, all of our living standard, low enough where like manufacturing then becomes affordable in America. So yeah, Ford is tweaking out. They're trying to make changes, and nothing's happened yet. And if I were gonna bet, I would bet that, I wouldn't even bet that nothing will happen. But as I've said, like, it's probably gonna be enough where people will trust Trump next time he says something, but not enough to make a big change, because that would just cost too much. That would only hurt Trump's reputation, and Trump I know a lot of people don't like him, but the guy's like real smart. He understands entertainment. So for those of us who are conspiracy minded, we probably have learned at some point in our travels of the internet, not like travels, but like that entertainment actually means like getting inside somebody's head. Like the Latin or the Roman, whatever it is, like the word entertainment means to get into your head, like enter your mind. So Trump understands like the general zeitgeist. He knows how to influence people. I mean, he's not even, like, in terms of the billionaires, he's not even that rich, but everybody knows him as the rich guy. But he's probably doing business with people that have way more money than him all the time. So he's not, like, in terms of how rich you possibly can be, Trump is not even that rich. He never was that rich. Rich? Sure. Gold toilet? Sick. I don't have a gold toilet. He does. But he doesn't make that much money. But he understands how to affect people's minds. So, you know, he's out there in WWE with his suit. He's hilarious. He's entertaining. He knows how to get into your head and make you think a certain way. And so when he's out there talking about we're going to tariff the shit out of him, and then month 1 goes by, month 2 goes by, it's been 3 months he's been in office. Yeah, it's been 3 months since he's been in office, and no tariffs, not a single thing, 0%. But you already have Ford out here talking, we got to change something, we're freaking out, we can't afford this. Nothing's happened, and Ford is already talking about we can't afford this. Yep, these tariffs never came. Yeah, sure, maybe there's still time, but I fucking bet you. Hopefully one of these days I get enough subscribers, right? Hopefully one of these days, whether in a few years or whatever, enough people are gonna watch, and then they'll watch for like a year, and they'll be like, dude, that poor guy, that poor construction worker on the screen was right. The tariffs won't happen in the... I'm kind of 50-50 on that, whether it'll happen at all or whether it'll happen but only on a scale to give the perception that it happened, right? Because the thing about the gold machine story is you need to be credible. You need to be trusted. And if you talk shit for way too long and nothing happens, you're not going to be... That means if you spread the rumor and then the rumor doesn't come true, that means the next rumor that you start isn't going to work. If Betty is calling Susan a slut for like a year and then everybody finds out later that Susan's actually a virgin, nobody's going to trust Betty anymore. Betty's just another bitch. So, but, you know, if Betty calls Susan a slut and then Susan, like 6 months later, slept with 2 guys from the football team, everybody's going to believe Betty now. Now Betty's the shit. Everybody knows that what Betty... Now when Betty calls, like, Vivian a slut, everybody's going to, like, ooh, gross, dude. To Vivian. Poor Vivian. So, do not trust these people. If you want to end the Fed, like, you have to know what they're up to. And they're smart, dude. They know what they're doing. So yeah, that's it. Trump's tariffs, they did not happen. They haven't happened. Let's say they do happen. It's going to be very small. Just enough for you to trust him when he says again, we're going to tariff again, or we're going to, you know, stop immigration, or we're going to, I don't know, Canada 51st state. Don't trust him. He was never telling the truth. All right, that's enough of a conclusion. I've been going on for a solid ass minute. Nobody even watched the end of these. All right, you know, but you'll be all right. You'll figure it out.